Colorado gets it done in a back-to-back on the road. The Rangers and Knights play a brilliant game, but was the ending trampled by a zebra? Plus, the Ducks do some trampling of their own, as much trampling as a waterfowl can do. All on this edition of Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before, only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Fans, welcome into Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the #1 sports podcast network featuring your teams every day. Thanks for making Locked On NHL Game Night your place to get a recap of all the night's action in the NHL during the regular season and the playoffs, whether it's one game, 16, and in tonight's case, everything in between. We're always here with the latest for you. We're available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Alex Wiederspiel. I write about hockey for Yard Barker. I hang here on Locked On NHL Game Night, and it is good to be here with you. We had a busy night across the league with 8 games, so we're going to get into it. Colorado and Philadelphia, where we want to start. The Avalanche coming across the West Coast for a weekend trip, and they take the Rangers down Saturday night in overtime, and you're thinking, here we have a schedule loss against the Philadelphia Flyers. Regardless of how you thought the Flyers were going to be to start the year, one, they're playing much better than people expected, but two, the Avalanche, best team in hockey, went into overtime at the Garden Saturday night, had to turn around and play the first game of the day early in Philadelphia, in a different city. No problem. Colorado gets the job done. Nathan MacKinnon, Martin Necas, and Cale Makar all pick up assists in this one, though no goals for Nathan MacKinnon. Last I checked, he was on pace for something crazy, 70-plus goals on the season. Not sure if he's still rolling that way, but it's pretty darn close. He's been ridiculous. Brock Nelson starting to heat up, though, scored his 10th of the season on the power play. Mackenzie Blackwood stops 23 of 25 in this one. Let's give Zach Pearson the final word on the Colorado Avalanche.
The Colorado Avalanche complete their weekend with a back-to-back in Philadelphia, and they come away with the 3-2 victory over the Flyers. Especially in the third period, this was a hold-on kind of game. The Avs do find a way, though, to prevent that game-tying goal and skate away with the win. Mackenzie Blackwood starts in back-to-back games, which is a very rare thing to see happen, at least that I've seen before, and yet he stays very strong in net, including stopping a penalty shot from Trevor Zegras, and that is a good stop there because Zegras is dangerous with the puck. On top of that, though, the Avalanche find a way to score a power play goal in this game. Avs fans, I know you're all just as excited as I am because we're not used to seeing those power play goals go in, even though we really should with how talented this team is. Brock Nelson is the one who scores that power play goal, and he continues to be an absolute force for the Colorado Avalanche as of late. Plus, Nathan MacKinnon is at an almost goal per game pace this season. Saw today that he is only 8 goals away from matching last season's goal total. Have a feeling that he's probably going to hit that. The Avalanche will have one more game on the road before coming home, and they are continuing to play well. We'll talk about all of that on the next episode of Locked On Avalanche.
All right, thanks, Zach. We're going to one note before we go over to the next game. So Colorado is towards the top in terms of shots per 60 minutes or shots for per 60 minutes on the power play. They are 32nd in the NHL in high danger chances per 60 minutes on the power play. Seemingly inexplicable for a team that is number 1 in the NHL in high danger chances per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. I don't understand how that's possible, but does it matter right now? Colorado hasn't needed the power play to be good. Granted, you're going to want that during the postseason, but they haven't needed it to be good right now. Special teams can often be the decider in the postseason because you just don't get a lot of opportunities. You need to capitalize on the ones you do get, but neither here nor there at the moment. Colorado looks like right now, if this keeps up, they're going to cruise to a President's Trophy. Let's jump over to Madison Square Garden, where the Vegas Golden Knights and New York Rangers go to overtime. Vegas wins this one 3-2. A little bit of controversy in this one. We'll get to that in just a moment. 2 points for Alexis Lafreniere as Vegas dominated the first period and got a goal from former Ranger Brett Howden. The Rangers dominated the second period, got an assist from Lafreniere on Zibanejad's goal, and Alexis Lafreniere scored a much-needed one at 5-on-5. He had been scuffling of late. Then Vegas kind of dominated more of the third period. Of course, the Rangers on the back-to-back, they played that really tough game and it went to overtime against Colorado on Saturday night. But kind of a crazy call at the end of regulation where with less than 2 minutes to go, Will Borgen and a defenseman for the New York Rangers and Brett Howden, who had been kind of getting into it back and forth all game, very, very innocuous getting into it. And the referee calls them each for 2 minutes for roughing, sends them off, knowing that Vegas down a goal is about to pull their goalie. All of a sudden, instead of a 6-on-5, it's a 5-on-4 with the pulled goalie. And noteworthy, the Rangers can't ice the puck in that scenario because it's not a power play. So all of a sudden, you have taken a situation that favors the Rangers, and all of a sudden it favors Vegas instead. And there was not much to this interaction at all. Very, very weird call in the moment, especially when you consider that referees in the NHL seem to make their entire living off of trying not to affect the outcomes of games, to the point of fairness, to the point that it actually does impact the outcome of games. This is what happened. An attempt to be overly fair, if you want to call it that, winds up being unfair in one sense. Now, again, listen, great job by Vegas, and Tomas Hertl kept at it, banged a rebound home against Jonathan Quick, who was brilliant for much of this game, and that forced overtime. And then Jack Eichel, recognizing Ranger fans didn't like this either. They were unhappy with the way the faceoff went in the offensive zone, felt like the faceoff was clearly favored to Vegas by the puck drop. But good read by Jack Eichel. Bank pass from Shea Theodore was absolutely brilliant, and he read that there was a young defenseman on the ice, and he just beats him to a puck. It's a great, brilliant play. Let's hear from Chris Golick of Locked On Vegas Golden Knights with Eichel calling game in this one.
Well, that was fun. The Vegas Golden Knights defeat the New York Rangers in overtime. It's actually the first time the Vegas Golden Knights have beaten a goalie when he was in the net. Doesn't count when they beat the Sharks and Nedeljkovic went for a little skate. We actually beat another goalie that was in the net in overtime. Jonathan Quick, former VGK. Brett Howden scores early in regulation. Tomas Hertl scores late in regulation. Jack Eichel scores at the end of the overtime period off a great Hail Mary / bank pass from Shea Theodore right off of a face-off win as time was about to expire. Make sure you check out the Locked On Vegas Golden Knights podcast on YouTube and anywhere you catch your podcast. Your team every day.
All right, thanks to Chris there, and Vegas gets the win. Eichel strikes, Eichel attacks. It was a brilliant play from Jack Eichel. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. And Vegas gets an all-important road win. To the Rangers' credit, team that had been struggling to get loser points. They'd had lots of sort of combo regulation wins, regulation losses, and it had been a problem for them early on. Again, if you want to stack up points in the regular season in this league, you've got to find a way to get games into overtime. To Vegas's credit, they're the one who does that today, but the Rangers now with back-to-back overtime losses against very good teams. This could have been a schedule loss in some respects, playing Vegas right after playing Colorado, even though both games were at home. But to the Rangers' credit, coming off a back-to-back, they're able to still get a point out of this one. All right, let's wrap this segment with the Florida Panthers and New York Islanders, and Florida starting to look more like vintage Florida. They stifled the Islanders defensively, only 21 shots allowed. More critically, only 7 high-danger chances allowed in all situations for Florida, or for the Islanders, I should say. Florida really did not give the Isles much to look at. Carter Verhaeghe scores. Sam Bennett got his 15th into an empty net. Matthew Schaefer does pick up an assist in the loss. Gil Martin of Locked On NHL Game Night has the final word on this one as the Islanders fall 4-1 in Florida.
The New York Islanders fall to the Florida Panthers 4-1 to split their weekend set of games in the state of Florida. Bottom line, the Islanders were outplayed for most of this game and did not deserve to win it. But here it is. You're down 2-1. You're entering the third period. And credit to the Florida Panthers. They shut the Islanders down. Islanders managing only 2 shots on goal in the final 20 minutes when they entered it down a goal. That is not a recipe for success. Ultimately, the Islanders needed to crash the net more, needed to get some more dirty goals, and they just didn't seem to have it in them. And credit to the Panthers for helping to shut the Islanders down. For more in-depth daily coverage of your New York Islanders, check out the Locked On Islanders podcast.
All right. Thanks, Gil. Much appreciated. So the Islanders, who have been very good to start this season, fall, and that would look much more like the team we expected to see in the preseason. Florida certainly looking much better, obviously still dealing with a lot of injury issues. I don't expect them to stay at the bottom of the Atlantic Division, but by the same token, they have got to get healthy, man. They've got some stuff to figure out. This looked like it was a big step in the right direction to figuring that stuff out. All right, Pittsburgh and Dallas. We're going to get to that when we come back on the other side of this break. Penguins let one get away from them. Looked like they had 2 points secured against one of the best teams in hockey. And the Washington Capitals get a dynamite, electric performance from Logan Thompson, who I think is looking for maybe a Vezina trophy with the way he's been playing. We'll talk all about that coming up here on the other side of this break on Locked On NHL Game Night. Our show brought to you in part by our friends over at Gametime. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams, for the first time ever, it's going to be absolutely massive. So let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part for anything, let alone the World Cup. That's why Gametime is so clutch as an app, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Gametime, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open up, and buy tickets in the moment when they hit the app. It puts the power in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. Pick a game, tap a section, have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for fine print. Prices include fees up front, which I'm a big fan of. No last-second surprises at checkout. Probably the most important thing for me. Alerts for teams and matches also makes it easy to grab tickets the moment they drop instead of missing out. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Gametime. Dallas Stars and Pittsburgh Penguins, and this is one that kind of gets away from the Pittsburgh Penguins, as you would say depth scoring was the story for the Penguins in this one, and depth scoring and goaltending. And again, I don't know if the Penguins are good enough to make that the story of any game. They almost did it tonight with goals from Connor Dewar and Tommy Novak, but Dallas gets a late goal from Miro Heiskanen to tie it, force overtime. No one would score. In the shootout, Dallas took care of business and gets the extra point, the loser point, the extra point, whatever you prefer to call it. 3-2 the final in this one, technically 2-2 with the shootout goal, whatever. Dallas gets the win. They continue to excel. And I have a theory about the Dallas Stars as I continue to watch this team. I am wondering if there's an element, not a big element, but a small element of rope-a-dope in their game, because if you look by the numbers, their chance and possession numbers, really the possession numbers, don't often favor the Stars most nights, and yet they keep winning because the high quality stuff continues to be even or is better in Dallas's case. And of course, they've got the goaltending in Jake Ottinger, and that has worked out well for Dallas. Casey DeSmith as well has been one of the better backups in the league this season. So a part of me is thinking that Dallas might be trying to conserve a little energy for later in the season, in particular in the playoffs, because I do wonder how much of their losses in the Western Conference Finals is Pete DeBoer and his system taking a lot out of the Dallas Stars during the regular season, so that maybe they didn't have everything they needed to have come conference final time. It's worth asking, because Pete DeBoer is actually an excellent strategist. We've seen what he's able to do in the playoffs, so it's curious that he's never able to get them past the Western Conference Finals in the past. You wonder how much of that had to do with, well, strategy doesn't matter when you've got guys who you've run into the ground. Just a little pet theory that I'm working on. I could be dead wrong on this. Glenn Gulletson, early on, I wasn't sure that he was the right fit. Now, looks like he's doing a phenomenal job for the Dallas Stars. They get the win. Pittsburgh, curious, might be considering lending Ben Kindle to Team Canada for the upcoming junior tournament. Interesting. He's their number 3 center right now on a team that's good, like fighting for a playoff spot good. Very strange. Very, very strange by the Pittsburgh Penguins, right? That seems odd to me that they would consider doing that. I get they want to take a long-term view, but it'd be different if they were 12 and 13 and 2, but they're not. They have a winning record. So strange. They are very much in the thick of the playoff race. Let's jump over to Washington and Columbus. We'll keep it in the Metropolitan Division. Huge night for Logan Thompson, 39 saves for him. And he was battled. He was almost equally dueled by Jet Greaves, the young netminder for Columbus. Didn't get any goal support in this one. He stopped 36 of 37. Jacob Chikrin had the lone goal with a goalie in net in this one. And then an empty netter, Alexi Protas doing his thing and getting the empty netter. This was a really evenly matched game for the most part. Shots, chances. Washington had the slight edge in quality, but if you go by natural stat trick, Jet Greaves saves something like 4 goals above expected or something crazy like that. He had a really, really good night in this one, and so did Logan Thompson. This was the true definition of a goalie duel. Let's give it over to Dan Holme from Locked On Washington Capitals for the final word on this one.
The Capitals down the Blue Jackets in what was a pretty uneventful game. Hi, this is Dan Holme of Locked On Capitals. Well, the Caps down the Jackets by a score of 2-0. Jacob Chikrin was the only player of either team to find the back of the net within the first 40 minutes. Alexei Protas scores an empty netter to seal it for the Capitals. Big picture from this game, Chikrin scoring the goal. Also, Logan Thompson saving 39 of 39, his 7th career shutout in his 100th career victory. So a great victory for Logan Thompson and a great win for the Capitals as they have an extended time off here, and they need it after a rigorous West Coast trip.
Thanks, Dan. And the Washington Capitals, they had a little stretch that didn't look great from like games 8 through 17 or so. If you go back and look in late October into early to mid-November, and they have turned it on ever since. They now sit atop the Metropolitan Division, aided in part by Carolina losing today and New Jersey continuing to not really look like New Jersey without Jack Hughes. More on Carolina, though, coming up in the next segment. Let's wrap this segment with Anaheim and Chicago. Battle between some of the best young talent on planet Earth in the NHL right now, and it was a stinker. Anaheim, there are not many words to describe what Anaheim did to Chicago. The score does not actually do justice to how bad this one was. Anaheim beat Chicago 7-1. At one point, I'm not a big money puck. Like, I actually love money pucks individual. Like their whole website's great. The one thing I tend to ignore is the deserve to win-o-meter. I think that one's a little bit silly. But I've never seen a deserve to win-o-meter. At one point tonight, it had the deserve to win-o-meter for Anaheim at 99+%. I think it was like 99.8%. Let me go over some numbers with you because this one was ugly. At 5-on-5, Anaheim outchanced Chicago 21-2 in high danger. Keep in mind, 21 high danger chances in 48 minutes. That's almost 1 every 2 minutes. The Colorado Avalanche, who lead the NHL in high danger chances per 60 minutes, their average per 60 minutes is 14. So the Ducks did to Chicago today 1.5 times what Colorado has done to the rest of the league. That's how lopsided this was. Total chances 40-8 at 5-on-5. It gets even worse when you add in the special teams. 28-3. 53-20 in shots. This one was, I think, 43-13 or 44-13 after 2 periods. There is not one stat that looks good for the Chicago Blackhawks in this one. Expected goals from natural stat trick, Anaheim 86%. There was no eye test, no metric that supports what happened in this one. Chicago was brutal. 7-1, they lose. They're 2-6-2 in their last 10, and it might be time to wonder, is Chicago coming back to earth at all? They've been heavily relying on the brilliance of Connor Bedard, who had another point in this one, and Spencer Knight, who I think you'd have to be at this point. I don't see how you can't argue that Spencer Knight is certainly not up there with an opportunity to go to the All-Star game, an opportunity. Certainly, I mean, probably Bedard will go over him, but an opportunity to go to the All-Star game is certainly on the table, to be an end-of-year All-Star. And then I think the conversation, he was not in net tonight, by the way, the conversation, I think, has to circle around a potential Vezina if Chicago's a playoff team. He's been that good. Anyway, the rest of the numbers, they're all really ugly. The Ducks, by the way, 3.25 expected goals in the second period alone. Seriously, this was ugly. This was as bad as it gets. 5 players with multi-point nights. Only 4 Duck skaters didn't record a point at all. Leo Carlsson now up to 16 goals. And again, you can't sleep on Leo Carlsson. When we talk about Connor Bedard and Macklin Celebrini, and we're going to talk about Celebrini coming up in the next segment, Leo Carlsson's right up there with in that conversation of which of these guys is potentially going to be the guy who takes over the league in the next couple of years. Leo Carlsson is very much in that conversation for the Anaheim Ducks, who are looking more and more like a playoff team. All right, we are going to wrap up taking some time with St. Louis and Montreal, and San Jose gets an upset win in Carolina tonight. I think Peter Laviolette was there actually as well. Funny enough, the Canes coach who won a Stanley Cup for them in 2006. We'll talk more about that coming up here on the other side of Locked On NHL Game Night. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. Unless you're a Jets fan, I promise you, the game never started to shift today. Whether a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover, FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet the next touchdown scorer, drive results, totals, and more to keep it and keep you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, let's wrap up our show tonight with 2 games. One, St. Louis and Montreal. Bit of a surprise in this one. The St. Louis Blues, for me, I thought they were going to be a playoff team. I was a big, big believer in what the Blues were doing, but the goaltending has been bad all season. It started to get slightly better, and they've had other issues as well outside of the goaltending. Like, don't let that be the only story in the book on the Blues this year. They've had other issues as well. Guys like Pavel Buchnevich just not scoring at 5-on-5. He did that in this one. St. Louis gets the win. How about this? 4-3 over Montreal. 3-point nights for Dylan Holloway and Braden Shen. The Blues held off Montreal, attempting to come back in the third. Jacob Dobish, not a great night for him. Allows 4 goals on only 18 shots in this one. This is probably one that Montreal, to some respect, is going to want back. There were multiple moments in this game where they had the better run of play, but they had some issues, and the biggest issue is everyone knows this is my bugaboo, right? If you watch the show, you know I talk about this all the time. What do you do in the third period when you are holding a lead? You want to know what the St. Louis Blues did? They played some of the best hockey they have played all season, limiting Montreal to 1 high danger chance in the third period, despite playing with a lead the entire time. That is probably as good as the Blues have played all season in that 20 minutes of hockey right there. They get the job done. Laura Saba has the latest from Locked On Montreal.
The Habs only fell apart for just a few minutes during that game against St. Louis. However, it was enough to hand the Blues the win. For the most of that game, for the better part of the game, the Habs were the better team and St. Louis looked very beatable. However, the Canadians made some massive defensive gaffes including forgetting the same guy twice. They allowed Braden Shen to walk in right up, and the Blues scored. And they ended up obviously beating the Habs 4-3. The game could not be blamed on Jakub Dobish at the beginning of the second and the beginning of the third. The Canadians really did not put up a performance for the ages in the second, allowing 2 goals, a very rapid succession, and in the third period, beginning of the third period, not scoring, not having a shot until about 6 or 7 minutes into the frame. So really that was something where the Canadians did it to themselves. However, even on the second night of a back-to-back, they still look like the better team. So they have to build on this onward and upward against Tampa next.
And I will say, second night of a back-to-back, that usually will have something to do with why you won't play as well in the third period. I still think you got to find a way to dig deep if you're a young team like Montreal and go out there against a team like St. Louis who hasn't played very well and try to finish the job. Anyway, San Jose and Carolina, I feel like in nights past, Carolina would have absolutely dominated this one, but they got the backup goalie in this one and still couldn't get the win. 3-point night for Macklin Celebrini. Surprise, surprise, including an empty netter at the end of the night. Otherwise, he did his job setting up other players in this one. Alex Nedeljkovic against his former team stops 28 of 29 shots. Pyotr Kochetkov, not his best night, allowed 3 goals on 21 shots. This was a game with a lot of quantity for the Canes, but surprisingly little quality when you consider the team they were playing against. Though San Jose defensively, I think, has looked better than they did at the start of the season when they were the definition of fun but dumb, fun but bad, whatever you want to call it. They were fun, but they weren't very good. They're looking a little bit better as far as the structure of the game goes. That should be a scary thought. They are getting better as the season goes on, and they banked up enough points early on in the season to not fall out of things. So the Sharks are very much in it. We'll give JD Young of Locked On San Jose the final word.
The San Jose Sharks snapped their 2-game losing streak thanks to Macklin Celebrini. Celebrini, who had been held off the scorer's sheet for the past couple games, bounces back with a big-time performance, a goal and 2 assists as the Sharks win 4-1 over the Carolina Hurricanes. The Sharks, quality over quantity was the name of the game for them in the first 2 periods. But as we've seen with the Hurricanes, when they come on strong, and that's where Alex Nedeljkovic stepped in. Nedeljkovic, 28 saves on 29 shot attempts, including a 16 save performance in the third period alone to help seal the deal. And the Sharks, who just faced 3 of the best teams in the NHL, finally get a road win here against the Carolina Hurricanes. So we'll break down this game on your next episode of Locked On Sharks.
It's a big one for San Jose. Again, I'm telling you that this is they are ahead of schedule in a way that I would never have expected, because when you look at the signings they made in the offseason, you look at guys like Dmitry Orlov, John Klingberg. First of all, a lot of folks would think Orlov looked kind of cooked in Carolina at the end there. John Klingberg, it's not so much that he looked cooked, it's that coming off of a really difficult rehab, how much or how quickly would he be able to get up to speed? Pretty good efforts from both those guys so far this season. The Sharks defensively look a lot better. So a lot of that has to do with the way Celebrini is playing. Worth noting, it also sounds like Michael Misa is going to get loaned out. He's been loaned to the AHL as he's recovering from injury, but he also sounds like he's going to get loaned out to Team Canada, and then I'm sure he'll be back as well. Nothing wrong with that for a young team. The Sharks, again, I do think they're kind of a year ahead of schedule, and there's no Sidney Crosby, there's no Erik Karlsson, there's no Evgeny Malkin, there's no Chris Letang, who you're thinking, I'd like to see these guys maybe win one more potentially. That's not really the case in San Jose. It's a clear rebuilding effort. We've known that for a while, and as a result of that, they loan out Michael Misa for a couple of weeks. That's not the end of the world, and I think it'll be good in the long term for Michael Misa. All right, on that note, folks, time to get out of here. If you want complete coverage of your favorite NHL team, there is a Locked On NHL Team podcast and YouTube show for you, because we've got one for every NHL team. This show, Locked On NHL Game Night, is here for you each and every night of the regular season and playoffs, wrapping up the night in the NHL. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this show if you're watching on YouTube and want to share your thoughts with us. We'd love to hear them. What do you think about the controversy in New York and Vegas, particularly the end of regulation? Let us know your thoughts. Am I being a Rangers homer? You tell me. Speaking of which, well, I guess not speaking of being a homer, but check out, I just wrote an article for Yardbarker. You can check it out over at yardbarker.com/NHL about what some of the teams that have been dealing with major injuries, that includes the Rangers and Adam Fox, who's now been missed for 4 games. That includes the Devils and Jack Hughes, the Stars and Tyler Seguin. What should they do? What should their GMs do in response to these issues? Check that out. That's over at yardbarker.com/NHL. And that's where I hang out sometimes. That'll do it for this edition of Locked On NHL Game Night. I'm Alex Wiederspiel. Thanks for listening and for watching Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast. Now, your teams every day.